behalf of Adele, Kent, Don, Preston, and the Baecker family, I welcome you to this memorial service for Charles Lewis Baecker. Charlie was a son, a brother, a husband, a father, and a grandfather, as well as a dear friend. Today, Adele has asked me, my name is Dave Howe, to conduct this service. We thank the Bravo Street Quartet for opening our program today with the Swan. We'll follow the program as printed. We'll begin with the Bravo Street Quartet performing Hey Sue, Joy of Man's Desire, after which there'll be a eulogy written by Marvin Baecker and read by Preston Baecker. Then we'll have the air on G string by Bach, and then I will return to offer my eulogy. Preston.
So, I'm Preston Baecker, and I'm here to deliver a eulogy for my brother Marvin. So, I feel privileged that I was asked, this is my brother's words, I feel privileged that I was asked to say a few words today about my memories of Charlie. If it were not for distance and health considerations, I would deliver my thoughts in person. Charlie was my brother. He was born Charles Lewis' brother on September the 8th, 1951, but was always known simply as Charlie in the family. Well, I am the oldest of 5 siblings. Charlie was born into slot number 4 in family chronology. However, Charlie thrived there. Most people would think that this was an unenviable position in the family pecking order, but Charlie thrived there. Well, he endured a fair amount of teasing from his sister, the middle child. He generally gave as good as he got and developed some lifelong skills as a politician in the bargain. Served him well at times. Today is a celebration of Charlie's life. I'm here to share with you some of my fondest memories of my brother. Charlie and I always had what I considered a special and warm relationship, and there are many things in the relationship that can be mentioned. I don't want to emphasize the chronology of many things he has accomplished, although to be sure there are a great many of those. But rather, I want to talk to you about Charlie as a person, a human being. One, our humanity is, after all, the common denominator we all share. And so it seems fitting, indeed, to view Charlie's life through the facets of humanity we all value most: enthusiasm, curiosity, intelligence, and compassion. I wish to share with you some measure of these characteristics as they define the essence of my brother. Mention enthusiasm, and it is hard not to mention Charlie, not to think of Charlie. As a young boy, enthusiasm might as well have been my brother's middle name. Enthusiasm was part of his personality for his entire life. Seemingly, Charlie was up for anything that might be going on, and he always measured, he was always interested. Charlie was here, Charlie was there, Charlie was everywhere. He was a real handful for my parents. Brother Charlie was simply his own man. We possess a family picture of Charlie in the glory of his boundless enthusiasm. For a number of years, we owned a Dalmatian dog who styled himself as the sixth child of the family. I'll add myself here. The dog's name was Verplu. Verplu's an odd name. It was a professor that my dad had in medical school. This dog was named after. I don't know whether that says anything about the relationship between my dad and the professor, or the dog, or what. We just found out the other day that Denise was looking up the history behind the name Verplu. And it's a Dutch name, evidently. I always thought it might be German or Polish. So that was Verplu. A lot to be said about Verplu, but I digress. So anyway, this dog considered himself the sixth child of the family. The dog loved his Purina dog biscuits. Some biscuits were yellow, these were cheese flavor. Some biscuits were red, beef flavor. Some were canned, these were the grain flavored one. And then there were a few black ones in there, and these had a charcoal. Charcoal doesn't have much of a flavor. That's what these were all about, the black ones. The oddity was that we, as the three older children, ate as many of the dog biscuits as the dog. The dog had a habit of jumping over the fence, going out in the neighborhood, visiting. Well, he had friends out in the neighborhood. And so all the kids would gather together as many of the neighborhoods. We grab a box of these biscuits and go out running after the dog. In fact, the dog probably wasn't all that interested in the dog biscuits. When we got there, the kids would be eating the dog biscuits as we went. And when we did finally get to where the dog was, it was usually a matter of just tackling him and people jumping around to get a leash on that dog. Anyway, so the three children, then we ate as many of the dog biscuits as did the dog. Charlie wanted in on this bonanza, but didn't yet understand the titles, or they didn't quite understand the rules. He reached into the box and pulled out a biscuit, which was unfortunately black. He put the biscuit into his mouth and bit down on it. After about a second, the look on his face was something I can still remember 65 years later. Enthusiasm aside, Charlie had discovered why people do not eat powdered charcoal. But he was not to be deterred. He pushed aside his setback and enthusiastically reached in once again into the box, this time pulling out a much more palatable red biscuit, disaster or averted. Well, seemingly trivial, this little scene illustrates an important part of Charlie's character. My brother always embraced everything he did to the fullest. He was enthused about and committed to every project he took on during his life. It didn't matter whether he was selling computer hardware, trying to start his own small business, teaching others how to be entrepreneurs, or finding dinosaur fossils with his son Kent. Charlie was always excited and fully committed. Curiosity among all things of this world was another facet of my brother's personality to be reckoned with. It was the basis for much of my own personal relationship with my brother. I would like to tell you of another incident that occurred during his younger years that foretell of how he viewed the world for his whole life. As a youngster, he regularly crawled up to the end of my bunk bed at night for a little brotherly comfort. It seemed we were the best bunkmates. There in bed, he would find me listening to a crystal radio set I had built as a scouting project. To hear anything on the radio, he needed headphones, so we shared my headphones. I used the earpiece on one side of the headphone, and my little brother used the earpiece on the other side. So you can picture what that looked like, basically. We listened together. The crystal radio was on my desk across the room. To use the headphones at night, I needed about 10 feet more wire so that I could connect my headphones to the crystal set while I was in bed. This was the problem. And so I engineered what I thought to be a great solution for my problem by borrowing an extension cord from the electrical drawer in the kitchen pantry. Jerry-rigged a solution. After a few alterations to the crystal set to the headphones, the extension cord worked just fine as the extra wire I needed. I was happy, but understand that my solution in no way involved plugging anything into an electrical outlet on the wall. Enter stage right, Mr. Curiosity, my brother Charlie. Since we had radio every night in bed, he wanted to test the proposition that one night one might get great radio reception from any wall socket in the house. To test this theory, he grabbed the headphones and the attached extension cord off my desk, ran down the hallway and plugged the extension cord, plugged it into the wall, an electrical wall outlet at the end of the hall. What happened next was akin to a red alert on Starship One. A loud klaxon like glare came out of the headphone, and then was quickly followed by a mushroom cloud, kind of a white mushroom cloud. My headphones were toast. So thankfully Charlie wasn't hurt and the headphones were soon replaced. But as I thought about things afterwards, I came to understand that my little brother had taught me an important engineering lesson that I have learned all my life. To quote, just because something can be done doesn't mean we should do it. This simple axiom has saved me many a time over the decades. Thank you, Charlie. As an adult, Charlie developed an inquisitive mind and an intelligence to be respected. He and I enjoyed numerous two-person conversations that we called seminars, mostly over the telephone, to discuss a great many subjects. We solved the young one money supply problem for the Obama administration, even though we were not government employees. We also had some ways to help curtail what's estimated cash flows caused by investment bank mortgage packaging. The world may have been a safer place if some of our ideas about supply chain management had been adopted. We had to do something with our economics degrees from the US. All of this was great fun, but the really good stuff was always our mutual love of science and technology. We spent hours and hours on entertaining conversations about nuclear fusion, reactor technology, fusion, not fission, reactor technology, national solar panel deployment policy, or quantum computer developments, to name a few. These conversations were often initiated when Charlie emailed me something he had just read in the Wall Street Journal. Charlie was never far from his Wall Street Journal. Thank you, brother, for helping to keep my mind away from the show. In a time of need, Charlie could be an unusually compassionate, could be an unusually passionate person. A very meaningful example of this is when Charlie at his, this was Charlie at his best, occurred during the latter months of 2018 when I was hospitalized with a cancer relapse. My brother had chronic lymphocytic leukemia and an associated kidney failure. So Charlie heard of my circumstances and did a heroic thing. He flew to Portland, Oregon to support and assist my wife, Annette. Not only did Annette have me on her mind, but also she needed to find and arrange for hospice care for her own passed away grandmother. Charlie was an aid and comfort beyond measure to Annette during those weeks. I was in the hospital. Charlie was able to accomplish things for Annette better than even I would have been able to do so. Sadly, Charlie later received his own cancer diagnosis and multiple myeloma and kidney failure. At that point, he and I realized that we were bonded by the circumstances of the disease that we both knew only too well. Charlie faced his last ordeal with honest courage. His wife, Adele, was always by his side. I only hope I was able to bring Charlie some measure of the empathy and understanding he had always shown to me and mine. In the last analysis, Charlie was a wonderful brother. He was a brother I was privileged to know from the day he came home from the hospital until the day he returned to Florida. He is one of 3 equally fine men I'm exceptionally proud to call my brothers. All my brothers, their dear wives and families are the best society a man could attain in this life, and Charlie was well worth it. And so it ends. Goodbye, Charlie. Rest in God's peace and enjoy your just and great words.
I met Charles Baecker in September of 1969 during our freshman year at the University of Southern California. Charles lived in Tooten Hall, and I resided in Trojan Hall. We had our meals in the Trojan Hall cafeteria, and we attended the same freshman English class. Charles quickly informed me and all whom he met at USC that his name was Charles or Charlie, never Chuck or any other nickname for Charles. Everyone respected his name preference, and I opted to call him Charlie. By the way, Charles is a German derivation and means strong and manly. Charlie would often relate an experience early in our English class that led to our friendship. He told about the time when the teacher's assistant to the professor was addressing the class and stated that some of the students did not correctly understand the prior class's assignment. I was sitting just behind and to the right of Charlie. Charlie raised his hand and asked for more details about the TA's concern, and he wanted to know who exactly messed up the assignment. Charlie said that I reached over and playfully whacked him on the back of his head, stating, "She's talking about you, dummy." But Charlie was no dummy. He was a gifted cellist and majored in economics at USC, and then went on to earn his MBA from Cal State Pomona. He helped me achieve an A grade in my music appreciation class during our sophomore year, and was most patient in explaining to me the differences between 4/4, 3/4, and other types of musical timing. To me, they all seemed to have the same beat, but Charlie helped me understand and appreciate the variances. During our sophomore year, Charlie moved into Trojan Hall, across the hall from my room, and that is where our friendship blossomed. At the end of that academic year, Charlie and I headed to the Sequoia National Park, and we tent camped for a week, reading and relaxing from a stressful academic year. At the end of our junior year, we returned to Sequoia, but this time we went on a week-long backpacking trip to the Hamilton Lakes, about a 32-mile round trip. The lakes were just above the tree line, and we explored the area and fished for golden trout. It was a great week. After our graduation in 1973, Charlie went on to seek his fame and fortune, while I stayed at USC for an additional 2 years to earn my master's degree in business administration. Charlie got involved with companies in diverse areas such as engineering, business management consulting, and various technologies. I remember visiting him and Adele at their home, and Charlie gave me a beautiful handcrafted wood briefcase that was his newest venture in manufacturing. That briefcase was a treasured possession, and I used it until it wore out. About 1985, Charlie, Adele, and their son Kent showed up at my home in Sandy, Utah, in a convertible Mustang on their way to Yellowstone for a family vacation. My son, Jordan, joined them in the Mustang, and I took the balance of my family in our car, and we toured Salt Lake City for a day. I can still see in my mind's eye Jordan and Kent sitting in the back seat of the Mustang like celebrities in a parade, waving to people along the road as Charlie happily drove the streets of Salt Lake City. Time passed and I focused on my career and family, and sadly did not actively engage with my college friends for several years. Just after our 40th reunion, which I opted not to attend, Charlie and another good friend from college, Alan Stark, decided to reach out to me and reconnect. It was wonderful to hear from both of them and rekindle our friendships. If I remember correctly, Charlie was now the director of the Entrepreneurial Institute at UC Irvine, which is a natural fit for him because of the entrepreneurial nature of his well-lived career. Gina and I were married in June 2012, and she was very supportive of my reassociating with my college friends. We took several trips to Southern California, meeting with the Starks, who lived in the Bay Area in the USC football games, and also with Charlie and Adele in the Orange County area. I remember a wonderful Newport Harbor sightseeing trip that we went on, and saw some whales just outside the harbor's river. Perhaps my favorite visit was the time when we all met for breakfast, and then Charlie and I went to the Peterson Auto Museum in Los Angeles, while Gina and Adele opted to attend various shopping malls. One of the exhibits in the Auto Museum was a race car simulator where Charlie and I went head-to-head around a virtual race course. I had completed a high-performance driving school a few years before at a racetrack west of Salt Lake City, and I was certain I would run Charlie off the track. Much to my chagrin, Charlie easily won the simulated race. My most recent in-person memory of Charlie is from August 2018. Charlie and his brother Preston decided to visit Great Basin National Park, located on the border of Nevada and Utah. Charlie wanted to see the bristlecone pine, some of the oldest trees on Earth, and the famous Lehman Caves. Charlie called me and told me he was flying into Salt Lake City, and I asked him and Preston to our home for dinner. During the dinner, Charlie looked at me and said, "Dave, we have this giant SUV we rented, and there's plenty of room for you if you'd like to join us on our trip." I instantly accepted, and we had a wonderful time exploring Great Basin National Park, as well as Ely, Nevada, with its Northern Nevada Railway Museum. We spent hours in the SUV driving from Salt Lake to Ely, all around the Great Basin area, and then up to the northern border of Utah, ending up at the missile display at the Northrop Grumman facility just east of Promontory, Utah, and then the Golden Spike National Monument. I listened to Charlie talk about a myriad of subjects of mutual interest, and he always added keen insights in every conversation. Charlie really enjoyed visiting the Golden Spike area and seeing the historic train engines in action. Since that trip, let me go back for a second. At the end of that trip, as Preston will recall, we went down to Antelope Island, which is an island in the Great Salt Lake. And there's bison there, buffalo. And as I drove, we just viewed hundreds and hundreds of buffalo. They came right up next to the vehicle, and Preston and Charlie were just gaping at all these bison that were there. And I jokingly, I said, "You haven't seen anything yet, guys. I've arranged for a herd of antelope around the next corner to stop, and they will sing Home on the Range to us." And I was obviously joking. And lo and behold, we turned the corner, and here's a herd of antelope right on the hillside there. Beautiful antelope, about twice the size of any antelope that I had ever seen in Utah. Since that trip, Charlie and I kept in touch via phone, talking about every other month or so. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit in early 2020, I recall one of our phone conversations when Charlie told me that he had purchased a 3D printer. He told me that one of his first projects was to print or manufacture a valve for the N95 medical masks that would result in extending the useful life of those life-saving masks. The term useful life is one that I would apply to my friend, Charlie Baecker. As I think about all the experiences, visits, in-person and telephone conversations over the years, I know that Charlie lived a most useful life. Charlie has now moved on from his useful life here on earth and joined his parents and ancestors in the eternities. The ravages of cancer and his failed kidneys did nothing to dampen his spirits in his final days. On June 15th, Charlie called me to inform me that he made a decision with his wife and family to cease his dialysis and chemotherapy treatments and enter into hospice. At the end of our final phone call, which was a difficult call for both of us, Charlie said to me, "I don't want to say farewell forever, I could not say farewell to you. So I chose to say, see you later, my friend. Take care. I conclude my remarks with the two-word admonition of the university where our 52-year friendship began. Fight on, my dear friend Charlie. Fight on. We'll now hear from the Bravo String Quartet. They will perform for us Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, after which Charlie and Adele's son Kent will give his remarks, and then the quartet will then treat us to Cello Suite No. 1 in G major by Bach.
I never expected to be here. This has come as much of a surprise to me as it is for many of you. It has left me reeling in ways that I had not contemplated previously. So for all those who knew my father a little or a lot, where I've come from both near and far, on behalf of my mother, myself, and my family, I thank you for being here with us to memorialize Charles Baecker. In preparation for this, I first saw a quote that I thought would best encompass my father, something that would convey the gravitas and weight of both who he was in life and the lessons that could be learned from his leading father. I started my search in the hallowed ground that Dad went to in times of question and needed reflection, the Wall Street Journal editorial section, of which I found numerous clever quotes and worldly antidotes that reflected upon the human condition and what perhaps it all means. But not being able to find the perfect quote there, I turned to alternative sources and thinkers that, in one way or another, epitomize Dad, such as military strategist Sun Tzu, New York Times columnist David Brooks, cosmologist Carl Sagan, and the weekly newspaper The Economist. All these held some ideal or passion with my father, and thus my first lesson of this experience was learned that as hard as we may try, a person, especially someone as diverse as my father, cannot be whittled down to a single inference that convey who they were in their depth and complexity. As we have heard so far, and what I can say about him in the most exact way possible, my father was a unique individual who deeply loved his family, his friends, and the adventure of life. Growing up, I was regularly reminded that as the last male Baecker, it was upon me that the family name would not, as Dad would say, become extinct, and to ensure its continuation. As far as I can tell, in this, I have failed. But I did give it my best shot and did manage to create two fine examples of Baeckerness, or as Dad would put it, Baecker Optimus, Julia, and Baecker Novus, Olivia. To Dad, being a Baecker was not just a given last name, he spoke of a reverence for virtues that, although not clearly outlined in the family crest, guided what is to be a Baecker and how to act accordingly. Having pondered these, I have found the Baecker virtues to be dignity, curiosity, and humor. Dignity for my father was not a theoretical construct regulated to the classroom or academic circles, but how one conducted themselves at all times, and was something for him to be maintained while living and dying. As a child, I can remember a few undignified acts that were reprimanded not by a stern talk or physical punishment, but by a terse reminder that this was not how Baecker acts. But the dignity that Dad displayed was not meant to be his glowering gaze on a savage world, but something to be shared, that no matter where someone came from, how they looked, or how they spoke, everyone deserves to be treated with dignity. As the administrative director of entrepreneurial studies at UCI, Dad was fascinated by the fact that great ideas can come from the least expected place. That students from different backgrounds can offer insight to ideas and problems that have not previously been considered. Everyone in his eyes deserved a chance, and a conversation with him about a particular difficulty we were experiencing would often entail I might know someone who can help you with that, or let me talk to a friend and see what we can do, offer. However, should his dignity be offended, there was no telling what he would do to fix the situation or make his displeasure known. One particular moment of Charlie wrath I remember was when my parents, my friend Ruben, and I found ourselves on a tour bus in Rome, looking at the various sites. As the evening descended, the bus, far from its initial drop-off point, unexpectedly decided that the day was finished and the passengers had best make their own way back. While my reaction to this was a passive-aggressive "c'est la vie," for Dad, this was an interminable insult that had to be addressed, if not rescinded. It started with a battle cry of, and I quote, "time to be an angry," making for a contentious 15 minutes that resulted in our walking back to our lodgings, but with a souvenir store. Baecker dignity then was to tell the truth, fulfill your obligation, and support those with you. But dignity was only one virtue of Dad that he performed because he saw it necessary that we had to, while the virtue of curiosity was one that he loved. Anyone who spends time around the Baecker family will soon understand that curiosity is the life force of a Baecker's existence, that there is still always something to learn, to contemplate, and to understand. It is this tendency that led me to become a librarian, for his granddaughters to become unafraid to chase lizards and snakes, and in his retirement, was to learn how to master and revolutionize home manufacturing. Growing up, trips to the Natural History Museum and national parks across the country were a regular facet of life. And when at home, science programs on PBS were daily consumed. A quick overview of Dad's YouTube subscriptions showed interest in SpaceX, Tesla, 3D printing, thermodynamics, manufacturing, history, politics, and J. Lo's Garage, to name some of the broader interests. It was at UCI that Dad found his niche in orchestrating the school's business plan competition that was not only about which ideas by the students were the most had the most promise, but that by cultivating relationships with students, coaches, and faculty, that innovation came from across interdisciplinary fields, and rarely a lone genius. Dad loved academia and was always quick to show the latest published research from UCI and how those ideas could be transferred from a lab-born academic theory to a practical usage for all to benefit from. For Dad, though, curiosity was not just a pursuit to be hoarded, but something to be shared. Where if he learned something useful for himself, it must be useful to all. I can clearly recall taking my now wife Jennifer to my parents' house when we first started dating, and soon after arriving, Dad asked if she had ever read the 2,500-year-old ancient Chinese treatise, The Art of War. Upon learning that she had not, Dad took the party to the couch in the living room where he read his favorite passages and discussed their meaning and modern-day application. To this day, Jennifer still doesn't know how to lay a proper siege or refrain from supply from enemy force. But she did learn that curiosity can lead to unexpected places. No matter where we were, Dad could always be counted on to anticipate what was around the corner, over the next hill, and that some of the best parts of life could only be found out there. Life, however, was not simply the two virtues of dignity and curiosity, but was only worthwhile if we had something to laugh at. One of the soundest pieces of advice that Dad ever gave me was the observation that you will get along better with people if you can make them laugh. And in my almost 40 years of experience, that logic mostly seems upheld. It was always a source of much amusement among the wider Baecker family that for a group that takes itself so seriously, we enjoyed a shocking degree of silliness. From fairly mature jokes to impressions, it was not uncommon for Dad to leave voicemails wanting to arrange a weekend dinner as Henry Kissinger. Theories as to why this have run the gamut from having grown up in a serious household and found humor as a release, to a proclivity of our German heritage, or the honest universal understanding that Leslie Nielsen is the greatest comedian of all time. Growing up, freshly washed and dried underwear on top of the head was thought the height of comic skill, and it took a particular talent to accurately sing any Christmas song, but as a clucking chick. Perhaps one of the most remembered moments for our family was while camping, a neighbor's campsite tent had been chewed into by a squirrel, and that besides the damaging of the tent, the rodent also consumed the occupant's stash of illegal substances, to which the owner released a fury so profound we were left gasping for air. As Papa Charlie, Dad would often chase Julia and Livia through the house as a T-Rex, delighted by the laughter and squeals that do so elicited. Lastly, although not intended as a joke, it was a well-known fact amongst family and friends that if you inquired any topic of the day to Dad, it would be guaranteed a response that began with, well, according to the Wall Street Journal. There they are, the three Baecker virtues, elements that Dad sought to incorporate into everyday life. And with the time growing long and my tongue started to wane, I would take this time to say goodbye to a father and a friend who in many ways remains with me, but has nonetheless gone from this world. I love you, Dad. Thank you for teaching me all that you could, for being a role model to compare myself by, and for always assuring me of your love and how proud you are. I never expected to be here so soon. But I am. I will continue with the dignity, curiosity, and humor that you taught, not just me, but all of us. I'll be the same. Goodbye.
Thank you, that was absolutely beautiful. If anyone is so inclined, we invite you now to come forward here at the lectern and offer some comments about your feelings and memories of Charlie. Family and friends, please, if you feel so inspired, to come forward and share your feelings at this time. Thank you. Need some help here.
Charlie and my paths converged in August of 1974. And he was a very, very friendly spirit, welcoming me to a new employment site. And as most of us know, as we start new jobs and careers, it's kind of scary. It's a new environment, even though we may have experience in different areas. but it was amazingly nice to have Charlie visit and welcome me and visit with me, introduce me to Bill. And I will also acknowledge that I was a recipient of one of his custom briefcases, which I've used a long time. Boy, did I beat that up. Charlie had a unique spirit, and it's never going to leave me. What do I mean? I had an opportunity to create my own business, and I seized the opportunity. But at the same time, shortly thereafter, I realized I might have bitten off more than I can chew. It was a very demanding situation. I felt I had the necessary background and support. But what Charlie provided me was something that I need to share with everybody. And that is, even at an early age, he was a great calming influence and mentor to me in my adventure in my business. And I just cannot stress that enough. Because when you're out on your own, and you are trying to take care of family, etc., have somebody like Charlie stand by your side and tell you it's going to be fine, and just relax and walk with, go for walks with me. That was great. So I'm here to amplify the words that everyone else has already shared today, but to also affirm that he's never going to leave. Thank you.
Good morning, friends and family. My name is Baecker. Today I am going to tell you about my Papa Charlie. He liked talking about dinosaur fossils and playing dinosaurs. He was always the T-Rex. If he catch me, he would growl at me and squeeze me. He liked playing and chasing lizards with me. We went swimming and camping, but the best part was going in his van. It had a bunk bed, a stove, and a refrigerator. I like his van. Papa Charlie loved music. He would play Jurassic World and Happy Birthday on his cello for me and Olivia, my baby sister named Olivia. I love Papa Charlie and I'm going to miss him. Love, Papa Charlie.
Well, you know what they say, never follow a child. It's a little harder to do. I'm not a good public speaker. I try easy, so I'm apologizing in advance for any awkward moments that may come out of this, so to speak. But I wanted to honor Charlie by sharing some of my experiences with him. And mine won't be quite so academic or technical as some of the other ones. But I've been reflecting over the last couple of weeks of what Charlie meant to me and what my relationship was with him. So I wanted to share some of those memories with you. I did have the opportunity to travel that I'm very thankful for with Adele and Charlie and the family. One of the first things I got to do with them traveling was to go to Washington, D.C. And that was my first trip I'd ever been back east. And so it was very exciting. We went during spring break. So we got to see all the cherry blossoms at the tidal blossoms at the basin. And it just looked like great pink petals. We got to see the Easter egg hunt at the White House. We got the tour of all the museums, Arlington Cemetery, and doing that with Charlie, of course, is a history lesson for each thing that you see. But one of my memories of that particular trip was we rented a car and went to see Mount Vernon in Williamsburg, and I loved that. On the way home, Charlie drove through Georgetown, and if you've ever driven with Charlie, and you've ever been in Georgetown, it's kind of like New York City during rush hour traffic, and you're just like, please, please, let us get through this alive. So that was one of my memories of that trip. I got to go to Hawaii with their family, and Don and Denise and Lindsay, and we did a lot of the tourist things, and we were even talking about this the other day before cell phones, and they would have a walkie-talkie in their car, and we'd have a walkie-talkie in our car, and we communicated when we were going places by walkie-talkie. And but on that first day or second day there, we went to a place, I think it was called Mama's Fish House, and it seemed out in the middle of nowhere, but very authentically Hawaiian. And got our drinks and food and stuff. And I remember when we left, and you have to remember this is probably about 25 years ago, Charlie going, that drink cost me $18. I was like, $18 for a drink, wow, Hawaii's gonna be expensive. But we had a lot of fun there. I think Ken and Lindsay both had birthdays while we were there, so that was fun. Other traveling experiences were to Yosemite, and I think I went there about 3 different times with him. And you all know how Charlie loved Yosemite a lot. The first trip that we took there, Lynette and Tom and Kent and Adele and Charlie and myself and my kids, but they were all little at the time. And so I remember Charlie wanting to take us all on a hike, but you couldn't go on the hike until you got the map out, and he spread the map out, and all the kids gathered around him and studied the map, and then you could go on the hike. And my kids Amy was talking about it just the other day. Mom, I remember getting around that map, so it left an impression on her. The second time I went to Yosemite with them was, they were reconstructing the trails, making them more disability friendly, handicap friendly. And so we went up to Yosemite Falls, and Adele and I got our famous claim to fame when we were interviewed by Hugh Hauser for one of his TV shows, and he nicknamed us the Windswept Ladies because it was extremely windy and our hair was just blowing all over the place. And then the last time we went to Yosemite, my kids now are grown up, grandkids going on the trip too, and Charlie wanted to go on a hike again. And this time Adele and I are a little older, and we're like, well, we'll go to the Amani and we'll meet up with you guys later. And so he went hiking with the girls, and when he got back, I remember he'd saying, I have to confess that you girls kicked my I'll say it in church, but so that was another memory of that. Other memories related to travel. I always enjoyed the barbecues at their house, and Charlie always loved his Weber, and was very good at cooking steaks, and he'd have them timed just so, and then flip them, and so many minutes on the other side. We had our sports, angel games that we always enjoyed, and then with my dad, we always had a friendly football rivalry, USC versus UCLA. And then, of course, he always loved education, and that was talked about a lot, and how he just was so happy when he would hear a family member was going on to college or getting a degree or graduating. Left his VW van, as Julia pointed out. My favorite memory of all, and this is the hardest one for me to talk about, but was when on the holidays, Charlie would play the cello, my mom would play on their nice piano that they had. And it was just so beautiful to hear them play this Christmas music. It really left quite a memory. Charlie was also responsible for my mom getting back interested in playing the piano, and in me actually buying a piano, because when they had their first apartment in Irvine, they had, I think it was an old upright piano, and I was visiting and trying to tinker around. I didn't know how to read music or anything, it was all very foreign to me, and just trying to play a song, pick out some melody. And then my mom, who we had never even knew played the piano, but had played it when she was younger, got interested in playing it, and my mom and I both ended up buying pianos, and then she would have her little concerts with Charlie. It was just a very nice memory. And Charlie and I tried to duplicate it one Christmas, but I didn't have my mom's talent. It was kind of a fiasco, but anyway, and as everyone else has said, Charlie was always very encouraging. He wanted to try something new. He was right behind that, and he wanted you to be the best that you could be, and help you in whatever way he could. And I didn't know how to end it, so as Dave said, just until we meet again. Thank you.
My name is Cindy DeVersa, and Charlie was my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law, my buddy, my walking buddy. We lived in Diamond Bar, only a few blocks away, and we went on long walks throughout Diamond Bar. He was my encourager. We were both at Cal Poly together getting our master's degree. He in business administration and me in nutrition sciences. But he was such an encourager. It was a time where you didn't have a computer, and Charlie just got one. And I'll show you how to use it. I'll help you with that. Such an encourager. One particular time, and this is now, we live at the base of Saddleback Mountain in Trabuco Canyon. Charlie said, let's climb that. And I go, okay, let's go. With only like a 16-ounce bottle of water, no flashlight. And it was an amazing time going up the mountain, having a great time. Come on, we can do it, we can do it. We get up to the very top. It's a 360 view at the top of Saddleback Mountain. And Charlie and I are just, with our cell phones, like tourists, like taking pictures, like selfies, and all of that. And we go, well, we better start back down. It's getting a little late up here. No flashlight, right? We get halfway through, now it's getting really dark. And we're on a trail about that big. And Charlie's in front of me, I'm holding on to his shirt, the back of his shirt, the tail of his shirt. He said, we can do it. He had the old-fashioned cell phones. No flashlight on the cell phone. It was just the illumination from having the cell phone on. You go, it's okay, Cindy, it's okay, we're gonna get through this. And then we come down to the Holy Gym where there's some cabins. And we could hear dogs barking and stuff. He goes, I'm gonna go see if somebody has a flashlight. We'll buy one. And so we go to this old house and these German shepherds come in and go, "Arr!" and all the lights come on, and Charlie's like, we're just here to buy a flashlight. What are you guys doing up here? We just need a flashlight. And so she goes, you got some money? And he goes, yeah. And he opens his wallet, I got a 20 on me. And so she went back to the back of her cabin, opens her refrigerator door, unzips from a rubber band a dangling flashlight in her refrigerator. So we got this little flashlight for $20, and Charlie was happy, I was happy, but it only lasted for about 10 minutes. And we're like, oh no. We finally made it home, and we both told ourselves, gosh, Tom and Adele are sitting at our house just enjoying themselves, not thinking they're really late, it's been a long day, or any of that. So I'll always remember that. And I told Charlie before, the last time I got to see him, I said, I live at the base of that mountain that we had so much fun in. We did such a stupid thing that day, unprepared. But I will always remember you and the good times that we had. He was an awesome guy and a great encourager.
Thank you to everybody who participated. Wonderful memories, wonderful thoughts. Adele has asked that I conclude our services today with a prayer. At the conclusion of my prayer, the Bravo Street Quartet will end our service with The River Flows in You by Yamira. And then all of us are invited on the little tribute card that you have in his back. If you don't know what this image is, this is Yosemite. On the back of this card, there's the address of Tom and Cindy's home, and you're invited to attend a luncheon and continue to share our memories and feelings about Charlie. So now I will offer a closing prayer. Our dear Father in heaven, we are grateful, Father, for the opportunity we've had to gather together this day in this beautiful chapel with this gorgeous views, this lovely stained glass window depicting a moment of thy Son's time here upon this earth, gathered with the sheep representing each and every one of us who gathered at his feet to learn and to be remembered. We're thankful, Father, for our good friend and family member, Charles Lewis Baecker. We're grateful, Father, for the associations that we have through him and with him that bring us closer together as friends and family members. Father, by the authority of the priesthood which I hold, I ask thee, please, Father, to bless Adele, Kent, Preston, and all his other family members, that thou will guide them at this time. Give these wonderful family members peace, as well as all of us, Father. I ask thee, Father, to remove grief and replace it with understanding. Remove concern and replace it with love and charity. We're thankful, Father, for all that thou blesses us with on a daily basis. We're thankful again to gather here this day to honor this wonderful man. And we pray these things humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.